begin. And we'll hear from President Zuma, and then we'll have the conversation. Tell us what you're doing, what you're trying to achieve. And you might mention a couple of things you've done in Mexico on this issue. I've been very impressed with them.
Thank you, President Clinton. I want to express my gratitude for this opportunity. Let me tell you that I need to re-emphasize the size of the problem. I know that the world right now is passing a very difficult moment, in particular in economic terms, but the problems associated with climate change are still there. If I understand, we were waiting for a terrible hurricane in Mexico and the Caribbean Sea, but suddenly that hurricane came here to New York a few weeks ago. At the same time, last year we had the worst rains ever in Mexico, and today, this year, we are living with the worst drought ever in Mexico and in Texas, with forest fires and a lot of troubles here in the United States. So my point is this: I know that the world has a lot of troubles, but we are still facing the most challenging problem for humankind in the future, and that is climate change. We in Mexico are working as several countries in order to do our part on that. We are putting in place a special program in order to tackle climate change. We established, as the first developing country, our special targets in order to reduce the carbon emissions in Mexico, and we are fulfilling that commitment. And in particular, we are establishing public policies in order to reduce carbon emission, in order to establish energy efficiency program. For instance, we are substituting the appliances, mainly refrigerators, in homes in Mexico. We have a special program in which we are subsidizing a new refrigerator and financing that and take it out the old one. Actually, there is in Mexico and in Spanish an expression. So the husband, in popular terms, the husband is mi viejo, my old one, if I can say that. So the name of the program is Cambia tu viejo por uno nuevo. Change your old one for a new one. So we have got to substitute more than 1 million refrigerators in 1.5 years, and now we are replacing all the lamps in order to establish only saving energy lamps in all places, all the homes in Mexico. We are promoting windy energy in the country, and now we are reaching 26% of renewable energy from all the sources of energy in the country. But in particular, we have a very strong international commitment, and we organized the COP16 in Cancun last December. And that is a very important point in which we can talk about this morning. One is we reached a lot of achievement in Cancun. The first one is that by first time ever in a formal terms, we agree to establish a limit in the increase of temperature for the globe. We agree in order to establish a limit of only 2 degrees centigrade in increase of the temperature, which is one of the achievements of COP16 in Cancun. We introduced the RED+ system in order to contribute to reduce emissions coming from deforestation, which is probably the most important opportunity to involve the participation of developing countries, because the developed countries are polluting mainly through industry, mainly through vehicles, but in developing countries, in particular poorest countries, the problem with emission is coming from deforestation of rainforests and woods. So the REDD+ mechanism is going to be a very important tool in public policy in order to get more active participation coming from developing countries. And that is a very important actions coming from Cancun. The third one is the creation of the Green Fund. And the fourth is to establish a set of mechanisms in order to measure, verify, and make more transparent the actions of all the countries. And finally, Cancun got a very important outcome in the sense that there is not only commitments coming from developed countries as before, but today a new national action in order to mitigate climate change coming from developing countries on voluntary basis. So now we have a new instrument in international law or international agreement in which we can promote the battle against climate change. And finally, today, and I will pass the micro to my good friend President Zuma, we have a new challenge in the COP17 in South Africa, in Durban. And Durban presents to us a very important problem in order to fix. And that is not only to continue the achievements of the COP16, but also to continue the Kyoto Protocol. Because we must remember that the Kyoto Protocol will extinguish next year. So Kyoto was the most important agreement and the most important instrument in order to establish clear rules, funds allocations, and commitments coming from private sector. But those obligations are expiring next year, and we have not yet a new instrument. So the challenge for Durban is even larger than Cancun challenge. And we need to collect all the political support and leadership in order to help President Zuma and his team to get a success in South Africa. My concern is that the economic problems that we are looking around are so big, and there is very few attention to the problem and the challenge of climate change and the COP17. And we need to raise leadership and public opinion and to mobilize that public opinion and people in order to promote another step, bold step in favor of the battle against climate change. And that is more or less the idea of what we are doing and what we must do in the next step. Thank you, President.